Hi and welcome to Inside Line. This week we look at the new breed of pint-sized people movers and the latest efficiency measurements for electric cars. But first, we are overloaded in controversy, starting with Mazda's decision not to issue a recall on 50,000 three small cars sold here. Now, Richard, is this a case of when a recall is not a recall?
Well, I mean, the US government safety authorities are very clear on this. They've issued a recall for this car. Mazda in the US has issued a recall. So they're saying it's definitely a safety issue, that it's a loss of power steering, and that could lead to an accident, and has led to 3 accidents in the States. Ask Mazda in Australia, no problem.
Yeah, they say it's not a safety issue because the steering system still steers the car. It can still keep the car going around a corner.
Yeah, but it's a case of steering feel. I mean, you and I know when you lose power steering, it's basically a real job to turn the vehicle.
Yeah.
And if you've got, I guess, older people and some smaller women, I guess they're gonna have struggle getting this thing pointing where they want it to point.
And mid-corner at 100 k's an hour could be quite a moment.
Yeah, I don't want that happening to me when I'm turning a corner, that's for sure.
Lewis Hamilton has been fined $500 after pleading guilty to performing a burnout earlier this year. Melbourne magistrate Clive Allsop slammed Hamilton for behaving like a hoon and abusing his position of authority and influence.
This week, F1 star Lewis Hamilton escaped major penalty by receiving just a $500 fine for his much publicised burnout earlier this year in Melbourne. Has justice been done?
Well, I guess it's a paltry fine by Formula One drivers' standards. I mean, he could pay that out of his back pocket, I would suggest. But having said that, I don't think what he did was all that heinous a crime, but a lot of people disagree with me.
The interesting thing was he was fined for intentionally losing control of a vehicle, but as he said in court this week, or his statement to court, he never lost control of the vehicle, and you have to believe that. He can do a slide at 200 or 300 kilometres an hour. He was only doing 30 or 40.
That's right. I'd feel safer with Lewis Hamilton behind the wheel, losing control of a vehicle, as they say, than I would with most policemen on the road these days.
Now that's some controversy. Well, when you think of people movers, you're probably imagining a flotilla of podgy vans loaded with seats. But the new breed is downsizing, bringing city car practicality, yet 7-seat space and flexibility. Now, Richard, is this going against the whole idea of a people mover?
Well, I don't think so, because a lot of people want the 7 seats but only want them occasionally. And what this does is it gives you a small car size footprint. So these things aren't, they're about the same size as a Mazda 3, but you've got those 2 seats that'll pop up when you've got the kids, have got friends over. Or what's happening a lot is that a lot of grandparents are saying, oh, I'll have a small car for during the week, but when the grandkids come over, I can pop them in the back seats.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because people, me excluded, people are getting bigger generally.
Well, that's true too. I mean, you've got kids these days. The average teenager isn't going to fit in some of these back seats. But if you package it properly, the Kia Rondo is a good example. You can get adults in that 3rd row seat.
Are people going to buy them in Australia?
Well, if the price is right, they will, I think. And that's the other thing you get by going to a smaller platform, is that you can bring these things in at about $25,000, which is pretty attractive to the average family that's got a few kids.
But they're still not the sexiest things around, are they?
No, they never will be, unfortunately.
That is a people mover for you.
Yep.
Now, finally, further confirmation that electric cars are here to stay, and it comes from the government this time, Richard.
That's right. We've got a system. They've just brought out some labels. Obviously, they'll have to wait until after the federal elections decided to put this into practice. But it's going to give you more of an energy rating than a fuel consumption rating. So it'll have things like kilowatt hours. It's got the range of the electric vehicle, but it's also got fuel consumption and CO2 emissions. But the real controversy is that basically they've said that an electric car puts out no CO2 and uses no fuel, which is true, but you've got to look at the energy source that it's drawing its electricity from.
I guess you've also got to look at how the car was produced. Did they, ship it a long way? Did they use a lot of energy in actually manufacturing the batteries?
That's right. It all comes down to this total whole life cycle cost, and that's something it's a very hard thing to put your finger on.
Well, it's a grey area, and you never seem to get an answer when you speak to the car companies.
No, it's going to be very confusing for consumers.
Indeed. Well, that's it for Inside Line this week. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay tuned to all things motoring here at Drive.com.au.